It was the final round of the U.S. Boxing Federation Championship, and my girlfriend, the referee, suddenly declared the opponent I was dominating, the one she'd been secretly sponsoring, the winner. When I confronted her on the spot, demanding to know why she'd betrayed the truth, she broke down in front of the media, sobbing that I tried to use our relationship to manipulate the match. After my career was destroyed, I was killed by a cheap shot in a grimy underground fight club. I opened my eyes. I was back, 10 minutes before the championship bout. This time, as she stood right in front of me, I smiled and accepted the bogus ruling. When the reporters swarmed me, I praised my opponent's extraordinary skill, a real learning experience. Seeing the shock on her face, I knew the game was just beginning. From her position at the judges' table, Chloe Vance's face, a face I once loved down to my bones, was now a mask of professional coldness. She raised her hand, signaling the officials to bring the championship belt to Leo Nash, the fighter standing center ring, his face a cocktail of shock and greedy delight. The man she'd been funding for years. And I, Damian Cross, the true winner, stood to the side. The spotlights burned my eyes. Sweat mixed with the blood trickling from the cut above my brow, a gift from one of Leo's illegal punches, and ran sticky down my face. The arena erupted. The scoreboard clearly showed I had a slight points advantage, yet the judge's decision was the complete opposite. I could hear my own ragged breathing, my heart slamming against my ribs, not from the brutal fight, but from a betrayal so absolute it felt surreal. Why? I stared at Chloe, my voice a hoarse whisper squeezed from between my teeth. A microphone caught it, amplifying my question throughout the entire stadium. Chloe turned to me. The eyes that once held such tenderness were now filled with icy distance. A perfectly measured dose of disappointment. She spoke in her own mic, her voice clear, laced with the tremor of someone who'd been hurt but was forcing herself to remain composed. Damian, I'm very disappointed in you. Before the match, you used our relationship as a bargaining chip, demanding I score in your favor. I refused because I am a referee and I must be impartial. She paused, her gaze sweeping over the frenzied media pit below, a tear glistening but never quite falling. But I never imagined you would resort to this. Questioning the outcome, questioning my professional integrity. The stadium exploded. Camera flashes engulfed me like 1,000 poison needles, skinning me alive. Reporters, like sharks smelling blood, swarmed forward, their microphones practically jabbing me in the face. Mr. Cross, is what referee Vance said true? Are you that insecure about your own abilities? Can you tell us specifically how you tried to pressure the referee before the match? I was speechless, trapped. I looked at Chloe. She had her head slightly turned, avoiding my gaze, but the corner of her mouth held a nearly invisible, chillingly cruel curve. It was over. I knew it. In the days that followed, a tidal wave of public opinion drowned me. Boxing champ pressures referee girlfriend. Damian Cross's shameless ploy. Chloe Vance. Integrity over love. The headlines crucified me. The Boxing Federation's investigation was all for show. The verdict came down like a guillotine, a lifetime ban. My career was shattered. My team dropped me, sponsors sued me, and friends vanished. The only place that would have a celebrity like me was the dirty, sweat and blood-soaked world of underground fighting, offering a chance to make some quick cash. And then, in a smoke-filled, roaring basement arena, a sharp, searing pain exploded at the back of my head. Someone had sucker punched me from behind. As I fell, I thought I saw them in the shadows of a corner, Chloe and Leo, wrapped in each other's arms, looking down at me with contempt. Darkness consumed everything. Damian? Damian, you spacing out? You're on deck, man. A familiar voice dragged me from the endless black. The blinding spotlights were replaced by the dim glow of the tunnel lights. I gasped for air like a dying fish thrown back into water, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it would burst from my chest. I looked down at my hands. Wrapped in clean, white tape, strong and solid. None of the scars from my time in the underground circuit. I was wearing my familiar blue fight robe, Damian Cross, and my team's logo emblazoned on the back. Dude, you okay? You're white as a sheet, my assistant, Benny, said, leaning in with a worried look. You nervous? Don't be. This Leo kid is a rookie. I heard he's got some talent, but he's nothing compared to you. Just go out there and... The national championship. Leo Nash. I was back. Reborn, just before the fight with Leo. A wave of dizzying disbelief and pure elation washed over me, making my fingers tremble. Not with fear, with excitement. I took a deep breath, forcing down the storm of emotions inside me. The pain, the bitterness, the rage from the moment of my death were seared into my soul. Chloe, Leo. Good. Very good. Fate had dealt me another hand. And this time, I was setting the rules. I'm fine, I said, my voice a little rough. I rolled my neck, feeling the joints pop. From the end of the tunnel, the announcer's voice boomed, calling my name, listing my achievements. The spotlight swung over. I clapped Benny on the shoulder and managed a flat, unreadable smile. Let's go. Stepping into the tunnel, into the roar of the crowd, I was hit by the wall of noise and light. My eyes immediately found her at the judge's table. Chloe. She wore a black referee's uniform that hugged her figure, her hair pulled back in a severe, professional bun that exposed the pale skin of her neck. She was leaning over, saying something to another judge, her profile looking focused and competent under the bright lights. Anyone would think she was a beautiful and impartial official. Who could possibly guess that her heart was so twisted and black it was practically rotting? I tore my eyes away and stepped onto the canvas, my face a blank mask. On the other side, Leo was already there. He looked nervous, his eyes darting around, not daring to meet mine. Yet he carried a strange undercurrent of confidence, as if he already knew he was going to win. The pre-fight check. The customary touch of gloves. I held out my fist, and Leo tapped it with his. His eyes flickered. Then it was Chloe's turn to walk over for the final inspection. She checked my gloves and mouthguard, all business, our eyes inevitably meeting. Her expression was complicated, a flicker of guilt I almost missed, but mostly a self-righteous sense of resolve and determination. Damien, she whispered, her voice fast and low, meant only for me, tinged with a deliberate distance. During the fight, I expect us both to be professional. Don't let our relationship. I almost laughed out loud. Professional? Relationship? Yeah, last time I cared too much about our relationship. I trusted her so much that I'd naively gone to her before the fight, suggesting she recuse herself to avoid a conflict of interest. She'd twisted that into ironclad proof of me pressuring her. Not this time. I cut her off, my voice calm, steady, almost polite. Don't worry, Referee Vance. I will adhere to the rules of the match. Chloe froze. She clearly hadn't expected that response. Her prepared speech died in her throat, and a flash of shock and unease crossed her face. She studied me, as if trying to read something, anything, but I just stared straight ahead, as if she were a complete and utter stranger. She pressed her lips together, said nothing more, and turned to signal for the fight to begin. Ding, the bell rang. Round one. Almost immediately, I felt it, the exact same setup as last time. Leo knew my style with an impossible familiarity. My go-to combinations, my evasive rhythm, the angles from which I love to throw power shots, even the small habits and weaknesses I barely noticed myself. He knew them all. My jab was dodged by a preemptive step back. He slipped my hook, then fired a counter that landed squarely on the old bruise spot on my ribs. It wasn't a serious injury, but the hit sent a dull, numbing ache through my side, messing with my power. This was not the performance of a rookie in his first national tournament, a kid whose record consisted of a few amateur fights on YouTube. There was only one explanation. Chloe had sold me out completely. She had fed him every detail of my technique, every weakness, every habit. They had probably run simulations on how to counter me 1,000 times. A colossal wave of rage and disgust rose in my throat, but I forced it down. Stay calm, Damien. Calm. You know what's coming. You've lived this once. Rage won't fix it. I followed the script from my past life, making the fight look difficult. Leo's fundamentals were garbage. His footwork was a mess, his punches were stiff, and his cardio was mediocre. He had my playbook, but couldn't translate it into effective, sustained attacks. But I struggled, hung on, and looked for openings. To the casual observer, it looked like an even match. Maybe Leo's shots even looked a little cleaner. I knew that was Chloe's artistic touch on the scorecards. The crowd was on the edge of their seats, their cheers and shouts echoing through the arena. The rounds flew by in this bizarre, calculated dance. Finally, just like last time, when the final bell rang, I had managed to land a few crucial, undeniable power shots that gave me a slight edge on the official scoreboard. It was a narrow lead, but a win was a win. I stood in my corner, breathing hard, waiting for the announcement. The other two judges seemed to be debating something, whispering to each other. Chloe listened to them, her face impassive. Then, as if making some monumental decision, she took a deep breath and walked to the center of the ring. The arena fell silent. I watched her, my heart a block of ice. Here it comes. Without a moment's hesitation, she raised Leo Nash's hand. The winner is, from the blue corner, Leo Nash. Her voice, carrying a false, definitive weight, boomed through the speakers. A storm of boos and shocked gasps erupted from the crowd. The numbers on the giant screen didn't say that. Everyone saw it. Leo himself was stunned for a second. Then his face split into a grin of delirious, disbelieving joy. The spotlight bathed him as he threw his arms in the air, soaking in a victory he had stolen. Chloe avoided my gaze, her face pale, but her composure held firm. Last time, in this exact moment, I had exploded with rage, charged at her, screamed at her, and walked right into the trap sheet set, sealing my own doom. This time, every camera, every pair of eyes in the stadium was locked on me, waiting for my reaction, waiting for me to lose control again, to become the explosive headline for their morning news. I stood my ground, my heaving chest slowly calming. Then, under the astonished gaze of thousands, I pulled the corners of my mouth into something that wasn't quite a smile. I walked toward the still celebrating Leo and held out my gloved fist. Leo jumped, thinking I was about to hit him, and instinctively took half a step back. I just tapped his glove with mine, my voice low but close enough to be picked up by the nearest ringside mic. Good fight. Without another word, without looking at anyone else, I turned, lowered my head, and walked silently out of the ring. No protest, no accusations, not even a single glance back at Chloe. My reaction was so abnormal that the boos and chatter of the crowd faltered for a beat. The reporters, cameras on their shoulders, ready to capture my meltdown, were frozen in place, completely bewildered. Chloe stared at my retreating back, the mask of composure finally cracking. Her eyes were wide with disbelief, confusion, and even a flicker of panic. Her follow-up script, the whole performance about standing by her principles under pressure, was stuck in her throat, rotting in her gut, causing her face to pale and flush in ugly blotches. She never in her wildest dreams imagined I would just take it on the chin and walk away. This wasn't in her script. As I stepped down from the ring, the reporters, though baffled, snapped back to life and instantly surrounded me, a forest of cameras and microphones shoved in my face. Damien, do you accept the outcome of this fight? Was there a problem with referee Vance's decision? Did you really pressure her before the match? The questions were a barrage, each one sharper than the last. I stopped. My face was unreadable, but the sweat on my forehead and the cut above my eye lent me a kind of battered sincerity. I spoke into the closest microphone, my voice hoarse from the fight, but unervingly clear. The judge's decision is final. I respect it unconditionally. A murmur went through the press corps. They clearly didn't expect this. I let the silence hang for a moment, then continued. Leo Nash is an excellent, high-potential fighter. He has a very distinct style, and his performance today was outstanding. There's a lot I can learn from him. While the result is disappointing, that's just part of the sport. I even forced a small, sportsmanlike smile. Congratulations to him. I'll keep working hard and get ready for the rest of the tournament. With that, I gave the reporters a slight nod, and with Benny and my team clearing a path, I walked straight to the locker room. I left a pack of stunned journalists staring after me. This wasn't the explosive story they'd been promised. Where was the furious accusation? The dramatic confrontation? Why wasn't Damian Cross playing by the rules? He was praising his opponent, respecting the decision. What were they supposed to right now? Damian Cross graciously accepts controversial loss, praises opponent. Where was the traffic in that? It was nothing compared to boxing champ accuses referee girlfriend of betrayal. But no matter what, my class act had just kicked their pre-written narrative about me, pressuring Chloe right into the trash. The atmosphere in the locker room was heavy. My manager and coach looked sick. Bullshit. That was our fight, god damn it. My coach slammed a towel on the bench, his face livid. Is that Vance woman blind? And that kid, Leo, he's a goddamn fraud. How the hell did he win? My manager was calmer, but his brow was furrowed. The decision's not changing. Damien, the way you handle that out there. He looked at me, his expression a mix of emotions. It must feel like hell, but it was probably the smartest move. At least you didn't give the media any more ammunition. I silently unwrapped the tape from my hands, saying nothing. The smartest move? No, this was just the appetizer. You okay, man? Benny asked quietly, handing me a bottle of water and a towel. You really held it together out there. I took the water and chugged half of it, the icy liquid cooling the inferno raging in my chest. I'm fine. I set the bottle down and looked at them. I'm heading home to get some rest. Before they could say anything else, I grabbed my bag and walked out. I knew Chloe would be coming for me. Given what she knew of me, my reaction tonight was way too out of character. She'd have to probe to see what was going on, or to continue her one-woman show. Sure enough, I hadn't been back in my apartment for long before the doorbell rang. I opened it. Chloe, She'd changed out of her referee uniform and was wearing street clothes, her face a perfect mask of concern and guilt. "Damien," she began, her voice soft and trembling. Are you okay? I know you must be furious with me." As she spoke, her eyes welled up. Her acting was, as always, impeccable. Last time, seeing her like this would have extinguished half my anger, and I'd have let her lead me right by the nose. But now, looking at that fraudulent face, all I felt was disgust. I didn't let her in, just blocked the doorway, my expression flat. "Is there something you need, Referee Vance?" The formal, distant title made her performance stutter. She hadn't expected me to be so cold. "Damien, don't be like this." Tears started to fall. "I know today's decision wasn't fair to you, but I didn't have a choice." Leo what? I cut her off, my voice quiet, but radiating a chilling pressure. Why did he know my techniques, my weaknesses, even my smallest, most insignificant habits so perfectly? It was like he sparred with me 1,000 times. Chloe's crying stopped dead. A flicker of pure panic crossed her face. I don't know what you're talking about." Her eyes darted away. "You don't know?" I took a step forward, looming over her. "From what I hear, Leo comes from some dead-end town in the middle of nowhere. His coach is his laid-off father. His training facilities are a joke, and he can't even afford a decent sparring partner. This is his first year in the Nationals. Where did he get the resources to study my fight tapes with that level of detail?" My questions were like knives, each one sharper than the last. Chloe shrank back under the assault, her face pale. And I pressed on, my eyes locked on hers. The scoreboard clearly showed I had the advantage. So why was he declared the winner? "Chloe, I need an explanation." The pressure was suffocating her. She had nowhere to hide. Her eyes darted wildly. Her lips trembled. She knew she couldn't lie her way out of this. Finally, she broke, shouting through her tears. "Yes, I told him. I analyzed your techniques for him." "So what?" As if finding her justification, her voice rose, hysterical. "I've been sponsoring Leo for years. Do you have any idea how poor his family is? How hard he works? How much he struggled to get this far? I didn't want his first time at the Nationals to be a crushing defeat. It would have destroyed his confidence. He needed this win. He needed it more than you." She shrieked, as if she'd done something righteous, and I was the one being unreasonable. So I listened to her noble speech, my heart turning to ice, but a mocking smile spread across my face. "That gives you the right to sell my secrets? To throw a match in front of the entire country? Chloe, where's your professional integrity? Did a dog eat it? I wasn't selling you out. I was trying to help him." Chloe argued desperately, the tears flowing faster. "Damien, you're so strong. What does one loss matter to you? You have so many more chances. Can't you be more generous? Can't you just try to understand?" Looking at her, the audacity of her "I'm weak, so I'm right" logic, I finally lost the last shred of my patience. "Understand you?" I laughed, a cold, empty sound. "Understand that you're playing both sides? Understand that you're using my money to fund your boy toy? Understand that you sold out your boyfriend for him? Understand that you played your boyfriend for a fool in front of a national audience?" My voice suddenly turned sharp as a razor. "Chloe, what the hell do you take me for? Your ATM? Or just a stepping stone for that little pet project of yours?" "No, it's not like that between me and Leo," she shrieked, but the guilt in her eyes was impossible to hide. "Not like what?" I stared her down. "You've been sleeping with him, haven't you? While I was killing myself in the gym, thinking about our future." "You're lying," Chloe screeched like a cornered animal. "Damien, you bastard. How dare you accuse me of that? I was so wrong about you. You don't understand me at all." There was again the deflection, the counter-accusation. I was completely done. "You're right. I don't understand you," I said coldly, my eyes devoid of any warmth. "And I don't want to." "Chloe, we're done." Her tirade stopped instantly. She stared at me in disbelief. What did you say?" I said. I enunciated each word with chilling clarity. "We're breaking up. Do you understand?" Chloe was stunned. She probably never imagined I would be the one to end it. She'd always had me wrapped around her finger, convinced I would forgive her for anything. Her face went from white to red to purple with humiliation. Fine. Damien Cross, you got balls." She pointed a trembling finger at my face. "Break up then. You think I need you? Someone as selfish and heartless as you, who doesn't understand the first thing about sacrifice or compassion, doesn't deserve me." She hurled her parting shot, the classic abuser's rewrite of history, then spun around and stormed off, her heels clicking angrily on the pavement. I slammed the door. Boom! The world went quiet. No drama, no second chances. In this life, the toxic bond between us was severed. Done. I leaned against the door and let out a long, slow breath. The poison that had been choking me for 2 lifetimes finally seemed to be dissipating, just a little. But this was far from over. The next day, I moved out of the apartment Chloe and I had shared, found a new place closer to the gym, and blocked her on everything. She was surgically removed from my life. Back at the gym, everyone was furious about the decision, but there was nothing to be done. My manager and coach sat me down, and I made it clear the incident was over, and I was focusing on the rest of the tournament. My calm, professional attitude was a relief to them, and it made them even more sympathetic to the injustice I'd suffered. The entire team was united in their contempt for Leo Nash and Chloe Vance. The round-robin tournament began. 12 fighters, 2 rounds of matches, with the top 4 advancing to the semifinals. It was a grueling schedule. I put everything else aside and threw myself into training. Chloe, unsurprisingly, showed zero remorse. She and Leo went public with their relationship almost immediately. They were inseparable, and Leo, playing the part of the conqueror, basked in the attention and resources Chloe provided. He was on top of the world. In the tournament, Leo's performance was astonishing. It was like he had a cheat code. Against every single opponent, he seemed to know their attack patterns and habits before they even threw a punch. His fundamentals were still a joke. His footwork, cardio, and power were full of holes that any pro could see. But who needs fundamentals when you have a playbook? And Chloe, as a member of the officiating committee, used every opportunity to bend the rules in his favor. In a close-quarters clinch, if his opponent landed more clean shots, she'd rule an illegal hold by Leo to get a break, or simply ignore the opponent's scoring blows. If Leo managed to land 1 or 2 decent counters in a round where he was otherwise dominated, she'd find a way to give him the edge on the scorecards. Once or twice, it could be overlooked, but as it happened again and again, everyone knew something was rotten. Chloe was slick, always operating in the gray areas of the rulebook, leaving no definitive proof. Plus, the principled image she'd built by placing integrity over love was still intact. Most fighters and coaches, though furious, just complained in private. And so, with his prophetic advantage and his referee girlfriend running interference, Leo Nash miraculously went undefeated in the first round of the tournament. He was at the top of the leaderboard. The result was mind-boggling. The media went into a frenzy, plastering him with titles like the Dark Horse, the Boy Wonder, and the Tactical Genius. Leo and Chloe ate it up, parading around, soaking in the admiration, acting as if the championship was already theirs. I knew it was my turn. In the first round, aside from the fixed loss to Leo, I'd only lost 1 other match. I was ranked 3rd. The second round of the tournament began. My first opponent was Leo Nash. The hype for this fight was insane. The media narrative was all about it. Could the Prince of Prospects defeat the Old King a second time? The first showdown after the controversial decision. On fight night, the arena was sold out. Leo entered first, bathed in spotlights, wearing a flashy new robe. He blew a kiss to Chloe at the judges' table, drawing a mix of cheers and jeers. Chloe sat there, a prim, confident smile on her face. I entered next, my face a mask of stone, silently warming up. Down in the stands, the 10 other fighters who had already fought and been cheated by Leo were all there, their eyes fixed on the ring with complicated expressions. They had lost unfairly. They wanted to know, how do you fight a monster like this? Ding! The bell rang. Just like last time, Leo immediately tried to use his precognition to shut me down. He took a step back, anticipating my usual lead jab. But this time, I didn't throw a jab. I exploded forward in a single brutal step. I abandoned all technique, all feints, all the fancy combinations he was expecting. I just threw a single unadorned right-hand power punch, a cannonball launched straight at his face. Brute force beats? Bullshit. Forget technique. Forget predictions. I wasn't playing that game anymore. Leo was completely stunned. This wasn't in the script he'd studied. This move wasn't in Chloe's playbook. He hastily brought his arms up to block. Thwack! My glove crashed against his forearms with a sickening thud. The sheer force sent him stumbling backward, his arms screaming in pain, the smug look on his face instantly replaced by shock and panic. I gave him no time to recover. I swarmed him like an enraged bull, my fists flying like a hurricane. There was no pattern, no strategy. Just smashing, just swinging, just pure demolition. Left hook, right uppercut, straight right. I rained blows on his head, his stomach, his ribs, a relentless onslaught. Thud, thud, crack. The sound of flesh and bone impact echoed through the arena, making scalps tingle. Leo was totally lost. All his so-called predictions were useless against pure, overwhelming power, and a feral, off-script assault. He could only cover his head and retreat, a terrified, clumsy punching bag with no way to fight back. The entire crowd was stunned into silence. This wasn't a high-level chess match they'd expected. This was a street mugging, a mauling. At the judges' table, the color drained from Chloe's face. She shot to her feet, her hands gripping the edge of the table, knuckles white. She wanted to intervene, to find a reason to break us up, to give Leo a chance to breathe. But I gave her no opening. My attack was continuous, relentless, and perfectly within the rules. I trapped Leo against the ropes and unleashed hell. His head, protected only by his gloves, snapped back and forth with sickening pops. His eyes were wide with terror and confusion. What about knowing my style? What about exploiting my weaknesses? This isn't how it was supposed to go. Finally, a crushing right uppercut sliced through his pathetic guard and connected squarely with his chin. Leo's body went rigid. The lights went out in his eyes. His arms dropped, and he fell backward like a felled tree. Thump! He hit the canvas hard, a few drops of sweat flying into the air. His body twitched once, then went still. KO. An absolute, undeniable knockout. The arena was silent for a breath, then erupted in a deafening roar of shock and excitement. The referee, not Chloe, the one in the ring, rushed over to start the count. 3, 4, 5. Chloe's face was ashen. She tried to rush the ring, but was held back by the other officials. 8, 9, 10. The count finished. Leo was still out cold, a heap on the canvas. The referee grabbed my wrist and raised it high. The winner, from the red corner, Damian Cross. The roar of the crowd nearly blew the roof off the building. I shook off the referee's hand. I didn't celebrate. I just shot a cold glance at Chloe, who looked like she was about to collapse, then stepped out of the ring. As I walked through the fighters' area, the 10 guys who had lost to Leo were all on their feet, their eyes wide. They looked from the unconscious heap in the ring back to me, their faces a mixture of shock, realization, and a fierce, suppressed excitement. I paused. I looked at them, my voice low but carrying over the noise. You see that? Against a fraud who just steals moves, you don't play chess. I held up my gloved fist. You just go forward and beat his ass. He's a lot weaker than you think. Without another word, I walked to the back. The fighters looked at each other, and then, in near unison, a fire of vengeance ignited in their eyes. It's that simple. What followed was the round-robin tournament of Leo Nash's nightmares. The next fighter to face him was a hot-headed brawler from Detroit who'd almost gotten into a fight with a referee after his bogus loss in the first round. The moment the bell rang, he let out a roar, charged across the ring like I had, and just started winging haymakers. Leo tried to anticipate, to find his rhythm. But his cheat sheet was useless against raw power and an attitude of I don't care what you do, I'm just here to hurt you. Less than 1 round later, a looping overhand right sent him crashing to the mat. KO. On his way out, the Detroit fighter pointedly yelled toward the judges' table. Felt good to finally fight a real fight. Turns out this punk can't take a punch. The third opponent used the same strategy, chasing Leo around the ring, battering him from pillar to post. He won by a lopsided decision, so dominant that even Chloe couldn't fix it. After the fight, the guy passed me in the hall, grinned, and held out a fist. I bumped it. He lowered his voice and said, a vicious glint in his eye, "Thanks, Cross. My turn next. I'm gonna beat the shit out of him." Well, he certainly did. In fact, all of them did. Leo's ordeal had just begun. Every single opponent, now, came into the ring like they were shot out of a cannon, eyes burning, and proceeded to use Leo as a heavy bag. This is for cheating. This is for having a sugar mama referee. This is for stealing my moves. All their previous frustration was paid back with interest. Leo's technical flaws were brutally exposed. Once his playbook was useless, he was nothing against the top professional fighters in the country. KO after KO, beating after beating. His confidence, along with his pretty boy face, was systematically pulverized. From the judges' table, Chloe was forced to watch her masterpiece get destroyed again and again. Her face grew darker with each passing day. She tried to intervene, to show blatant favoritism, but the skill gap was too vast. Leo's losses were becoming more and more pathetic. The media's narrative changed on a dime. The dark horse praise turned into questions about his true skill level, and exposés on his connections. Leo and Chloe fell from grace, becoming the laughingstocks of the boxing world. After another brutal knockout, a bruised, battered, and aching Leo finally broke down in the locker room. I was in the stall next door and heard his tearful phone call perfectly. "Chloe, I can't do it. I can't fight anymore. Let me drop out. Please. He was sobbing like a child. It hurts so much. They're trying to kill me. I can't take it. I could faintly hear Chloe's voice on the other end, probably trying to soothe him. But Leo was beyond reason. What good is comforting me? I get beaten like this every time I step in the ring. I'm going to get killed out there. This is all your fault. You said it was foolproof. You said I'd win. I don't know what Chloe said, but it must have set him off. His voice rose to a scream of pure rage and resentment. You're calling me useless? Yeah, I'm useless. I'm a fraud. So why'd you pick me? Go find someone useful. You say that one more time. Chloe, don't you push me. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be. Crash. It sounded like something shattered. Then came Leo's hysterical roar. Fine, fine. You just wait. You just wait for me. The call ended abruptly. I heard the sounds of sniffling, animalistic whimpers, and things being thrown around the locker room. I calmly finished changing, a cold smile touching my lips. He can't take it. The fun was just getting started. The tournament continued, and Leo's misery was far from over. The fighters had an unspoken agreement. Destroy the nepotism baby. That included the guy who wanted to beat the shit out of him, and the most feared, experienced, and foul-tempered veteran in the tournament, Gus the Reaper Riley. Gus had unexpectedly lost to Leo in the first round. In that match, Chloe's bias had been at its peak, basically stealing points from Gus and handing them to Leo. Gus had nearly had a stroke right there in the ring. The Reaper had dominated the sport for over a decade. He wasn't used to being humiliated. This round, he was simmering with a volcanic rage, just waiting for his rematch. The schedule was released. Gus Riley versus Leo Nash was the 11th fight of the second round. That meant Leo had already been beaten senseless in 10 consecutive matches. His body and mind were at their breaking point, and Gus had been waiting for 10 long matches for this very day. On fight night, the atmosphere was chilling. When Leo entered the ring, his legs were visibly shaking. His eyes were unfocused, filled with terror, and he kept glancing pleadingly at Chloe. Chloe's face was stone, her hands trembling where they rested on the table. She knew how much attention was on this fight, and she knew Gus's reputation. She couldn't risk the blatant favoritism of before. The media would eat her alive. Gus entered the ring, his face expressionless, his eyes as cold as a Siberian winter. He just rolled his wrists, the cracking of his knuckles echoing ominously. Ding! The bell sounded like a death knell. Gus didn't even bother with a feeling-out process. He moved forward like a tank, intent on running Leo over. His technique wasn't wild like mine. It was brutally efficient, surgically precise, and terrifyingly powerful. Leo was petrified, instinctively raising his hands to cover his head. But Gus's fists were like heat-seeking missiles, targeting the most painful spots. The stomach, the liver, the floating ribs. Thud! A heavy shot to the liver made Leo's face contort in agony. He let out a choked gasp and doubled over. Gus gave him no reprieve. A hailstorm of combinations rained down. A hook to the body, a hook to the head, an uppercut that snapped his chin up. Leo was a rag doll, battered and stumbling, able to do nothing but grunt in pain. The arena was dead silent, save for the sickening thuds of impact and Leo's muffled whimpers. At the judges' table, Chloe's nails were digging into her palms, but she was powerless. Finally, Gus unleashed a merciless, full-power right hand that slammed squarely into Leo's unprotected abdomen. Urk! Leo's eyes bulged. His whole body seized up violently, and then an indescribable stench filled the air. A thin, yellow-brown liquid, mixed with something fouler, began to trickle down the leg of his shorts, dripping onto the pristine white canvas. It was horrifyingly visible. Absolute silence fell over the arena. Everyone stared, dumbfounded, at the disgusting scene. Leo. He'd been hit so hard he'd lost control of his bowels. He had literally had the shit beaten out of him. Gag, someone in the crowd retched. It set off a chain reaction, with dozens of spectators covering their mouths and noses, their faces twisted in disgust. The referee was stunned, frozen for several seconds before rushing in to stop the fight. Leo collapsed in his own filth, his eyes vacant, all the light gone from his face, replaced by infinite shame and despair. Gus wrinkled his nose, took 2 steps back in disgust, and shot a contemptuous look at the pathetic heap on the floor. He snorted and walked out of the ring. Passing the other fighters, the Reaper glanced at us, particularly the guy who had made the original threat, and said flatly, "Kid was right. Can't take a punch. I wasn't even trying that hard." The other fighter was speechless. The crowd erupted, first in shock, then in a tidal wave of laughter and jeers. Holy shit, He actually did it. The Reaper is a legend. Well, Leo Nash is famous now. He'll stink for 1,000 years. Ha ha ha. This is definitely the most memorable moment of the tournament. No, of boxing history. Flashes popped everywhere, immortalizing the historic moment. Leo was wrapped in a towel by the staff and dragged out of the ring like a carcass, leaving behind a conspicuous stain and an overwhelming stench. He hadn't just been KO'd 11 times. He had been publicly, utterly, and fecally humiliated. This was a disgrace for the history books, a stain he would never, ever wash away. Backstage, hysterical sobs and crashing sounds came from Leo's locker room. Moments later, Chloe rushed in, and an explosive argument erupted. "I'm not fighting. I'm quitting. I have to quit. I can't take it anymore." Leo's voice was a shredded wreck. "No, you can't quit. If you quit now, you're finished. Everything we worked for will be for nothing." Chloe shrieked back. "Work for? For nothing? Screw your work. Chloe, you've ruined me. Do you see what they're doing to me? I'm a punching bag. A joke. I'm the laughingstock of the entire world." Leo's voice was laced with insane hatred. "So what? Endure it. You have to finish the tournament. I don't care if you have to crawl into that ring. You will get in there." "Crawl my ass. Chloe, you say one more goddamn word. I swear to God I'll hit you." "You wouldn't dare. Leo, you touch me and see what happens. Where would you be without me? You're useless. A worthless piece of trash who can't do anything on his own." Smack. The sharp crack of a slap echoed through the hall. It was followed by Chloe's disbelieving scream. "You hit me?" "Yeah, I hit you. So what?" Leo had completely snapped, all his repressed rage and humiliation boiling over. "I can't beat them, but I can sure as hell beat you. This is all your fault. It's all because of you, you bitch. I'll kill you." The sounds of a violent struggle, a woman's cries, a man's roars, and shattering objects spilled out from the room. The people outside exchanged glances, but no one made a move to intervene. They deserved it. The drama ended with Leo storming out and Chloe fleeing in tears, her clothes torn and her face bruised. Despite all this, thanks to the points he'd racked up in the undefeated first round and a few other fighters dropping out due to injury, Leo, the man who had been literally beaten into incontinence, had somehow miraculously squeezed in the top 4. He had a spot in the semifinals. The luck of the devil. The semifinal draw was announced. As if ordained by a vengeful god, his opponent was me. We met in the tunnel before the fight. Leo was pale, his eyes darting away from mine, his body trembling uncontrollably. He looked at me like he was seeing a ghost. I walked over to him, looked him up and down, and let a slow, mocking smile spread across my face. Well, if it isn't the boy genius," I purred, leaning in close so only he could hear. "Did you take care of business before you came out?" Leo's body went rigid, his pupils shrinking. The blood drained from his face, and he looked like he was about to faint from shame and terror. "Maybe you should hit the bathroom first, just in case." I smiled knowingly and patted his shoulder. "You lose control again on stage. Damien, you. Leo was shaking so hard he couldn't form a sentence, his lips quivering. "Me what?" My smile vanished, my eyes turning to ice. "Ready for your beating? This time, it won't be as easy as the last." Without another glance, I walked toward the ring. The semifinal was a best-of-5 rounds match, which meant if he wasn't durable enough, he might have to endure this 3 separate times. The result was a foregone conclusion. His confidence utterly shattered. Leo was like a toddler in the ring with me. In the first round, I barely threw a power shot. I just used my jab and footwork to toy with him, dancing circles around him, easily winning the round. In the second, I started to put some weight behind my punches. Heavy blows rained down on his body and head, leaving him battered and stumbling, a cut opening over his eye. During the break, the only thing in his eyes when he looked at me was pure, abject fear. In the third round, I knew it was time to end it. A vicious body shot followed by a precise overhand right that sailed over his guard. Thump! Leo collapsed, out cold before he even hit the mat. KO victory. I didn't even spare him a second look as I left the ring. Leo was eliminated. His journey in the national championship had ended in the most humiliating way imaginable. I heard that after the fight. He went home and took all his rage out on Chloe. This time, he was far more brutal. By the time the neighbors heard the commotion and called the police, Chloe was lying in a pool of blood, her body covered in injuries. Her spine was severely damaged. The doctors said she would likely be paralyzed for life. The police broke down the door and arrested Leo. When they took him, he was completely unhinged, laughing and crying as he screamed at the paralyzed Chloe. "It was all you. You forced me. I told you I didn't want to fight. I couldn't beat them. You made me go out there and get beaten. Are you happy now? Do you see what they did to me? Do you have any idea how much it hurt? Do you? His screams were a twisted symphony of pain and madness. What goes around comes around. The media, smelling a massive scandal, dug deep. Every dirty secret came out. How Chloe used her position to favor Leo, how she leaked my fight strategies, how she manipulated Leo, how they had conspired together from the start. One by one, the facts were exposed to the light. The tide of public opinion turned into a tsunami of disgust. The more they had praised him, the more they now despised him. The Boxing Federation moved quickly, issuing a statement. Chloe Vance was permanently stripped of her referee license and banned for life from any involvement in the sport. An investigation into others involved was launched. Leo Nash was convicted of aggravated assault and sentenced to 10 years in prison. And Chloe, paralyzed by the man she had propped up, lost her career, her income, and her reputation. In the end, her elderly parents had to take her back to their remote hometown to care for her. I heard her life was a miserable, living hell. Epilogue. After the semifinals, I fought my way to the championship match. My opponent was the veteran, Gus the Reaper, Riley. The final was an absolute war, a spectacular display of skill and heart. There were no conspiracies, no biased calls, just a pure clash of technique, power, and will. Gus and I battled for 8 brutal rounds. In the end, I lost by a narrow points decision to the more experienced fighter. But I had left everything in the ring. I had earned the respect of the entire arena, including my opponent. After the fight, Gus wrapped me in a hug, slapping my back, our sweat and blood mixing. Good fight, kid. Damn good fight. The future is yours. There was no shame in that loss. The next year, I came back stronger. My technique was more polished, my mind calmer. This time, in the finals, I defeated Gus Riley and won the championship belt I had dreamed of my entire life. Standing in the spotlight, raising that golden belt, the roar of the crowd washed over me. The sweat, the tears, the bitterness and rage of 2 lifetimes. It all came pouring out in that one triumphant moment. The future had truly arrived. After the celebration party, I was back in my hotel room when my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered. The voice on the other end was weak, distorted, thick with tears and the static of a bad connection. It was a woman's voice, unsettling to listen to. Damn, Damien, it's me, Chloe. Her voice was halting, breathless, punctuated by the faint hum of some kind of machinery. I leaned back on the couch, swirling the whiskey in my glass, and said nothing. Con, congratulations on your win. She took a ragged breath, the effort clearly exhausting her. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Back then, I don't know what I was thinking. I'm so sorry. She started to cry, her voice a hoarse, ugly sound. I got what I deserved. Look at me now. I'm not even a person anymore. Paralyzed, stuck in this bed. It's worse than being dead. Damien, please forgive me. Her plea was desperate, dripping with regret. I have no one else, for the sake of what we used to have. Please, help me. Take care of me. Please. Tôi nhìn thấy anh ta đang ngồi ở trên ghế, ánh mắt lạnh như băng nhìn chằm chằm vào tôi. I listened silently, my face a blank mask. When she had cried herself into a state of gasping exhaustion, I finally spoke, my voice calm, with a playful, mocking edge. Forgive you. Chloe, you're paralyzed from the neck down, not from the neck up, right? Why are you talking such nonsense? The crying on the other end stopped with a sharp gasp. Help you? Take care of you. I let out a soft laugh. Why would I do that? Because you cheated on me? Because you sold me out? Because you threw my championship? Or is it because you're now lying in a bed, unable to control your own bladder? Every word was a shard of ice, twisting into her. I could hear her ragged, panicked breathing, a wet, choking sound like she was being strangled. Listen to me, Chloe, I said, my voice dropping to mockery and turning hard as granite. Everything that has happened to you, you brought on yourself. And honestly, I enjoy hearing about it. You just stay in your miserable little town, lie in your bed, and think about what you've done. My future is bright. And you, I paused, then enunciated the last 3 words with perfect final clarity. Don't get one. I hung up and blocked the number. The world was finally completely quiet. Outside the window, the city lights of Vegas glittered like a river of stars. I raised my glass to my reflection in the window and smiled. To the future.